Yeah, ever have that feeling? The harder you try to grab onto something, the more it seems to slip through your fingers? Well, today we're going to dive into that exact feeling, a wild paradox that says real power, the kind that lasts, doesn't come from tightening your grip, but from knowing how to let go. All right, let's get into it. And this isn't some new age idea. This is ancient wisdom. It's a timeless observation about a huge flaw in the way we often chase our ambitions. For literally centuries, people have watched leaders and empires try to bend the world to their will, only to see it all come crashing down. So what does that look like in our world today? Well, it looks a little something like this. $36 billion. That's the mind-blowing amount of money Meta burned trying to force its vision of the metaverse on all of us. It's the perfect modern-day proof of that old proverb. When you try to force a reality that people aren't ready for or just don't want, the world has a way of pushing back. And man, does it push back hard. This whole pattern is so common that there's actually a name for it. It's called the control chop. And it's this crazy cycle where the more you try to guarantee an outcome, the more you actually ensure that it's going to fail. We see it in big business, in global politics, and yeah, even in our own day-to-day lives. I mean, just think about it. History is filled with empires that collapsed because you just can't force millions of people with different cultures to be the same. We just saw how a tech giant can lose billions trying to force a digital reality. And on a scale we've all probably felt, we all know that micromanager, right? The one who's so obsessed with control that they chase away all their best, most creative people. The pattern is the same everywhere. Okay, so why does this keep happening? To really get it, we need a new metaphor for how the world works. And honestly, the best one is probably water. Any kind of rigid, forceful approach just shatters when it comes against something so naturally fluid and dynamic. And here's the crucial insight. The world, or your team or your family, it isn't a block of stone you can just hammer into the shape you want. It's more like a sacred vessel. It's a living, breathing system with its own energy, its own flow. You can't command it. You can only guide it, cultivate it, and work with it. This says it all, doesn't it? Just try to cup water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it all slips away. Control is exactly the same. The tighter your grip on a project or a person or an idea, the more you just squeeze all the life, all the potential, right out of it. And you can see these two mindsets clashing everywhere. On one side, you've got the force approach. It's all about uniformity, standardized tests that treat every kid the same, rigid one-size-fits-all company rules that just stifle any real creativity. But then you have the aligned approach. It works with the system. It's like Montessori education, which adapts to the child, or self-governing teams that are trusted to find their own way. It's freedom, it's trust, and it just works better. So if forcing things is a terrible idea, what are we supposed to do? Well, the cool thing is, this ancient wisdom doesn't just point out the problem, it actually gives us a toolkit to fix it. It's a really simple, practical framework called the 3 removals, and it's designed to pull you right out of that control trap. Now get this, it's not about adding more rules, more steps, or more processes. It's the opposite. It's about taking things away. The path to getting things done right is actually through subtraction. You remove what's extreme, you remove what's needlessly luxurious or imbalanced, and you remove what's just excess. It's all about finding balance by simplifying. So what does that actually look like today? Well, removing extremes, that's about consciously stepping away from all the political shouting and trying to find some common ground. Removing luxury, that could mean tackling those insane pay gaps between executives and workers that just create resentment. And removing excess, that's the perfect cure for our toxic 24/7 hustle culture. It's about setting real boundaries, like a 4-day work week, to stop people from burning out. Okay, I know what some of you might be thinking. This all sounds nice, but does it actually produce results in the hyper-competitive real world? Well, the evidence is pretty stunning. When leaders and companies actually shift from trying to control everything to instead cultivating potential, the results are incredible. And the numbers don't lie. This isn't philosophy, this is straight up business strategy. Studies show that when you give teams real autonomy, profits jump by 21%. Companies that embrace diversity instead of forcing everyone to be the same, they see 35% better returns. And that 4-day workweek thing, a massive 78% of employees end up happier, less stressed, and are just as productive. Clearly, letting go pays off. Literally. And this all brings us to maybe the most important takeaway, especially if you lead anything, a team, a company, a family. It's this question: are you a sculptor or are you a gardener? The sculptor has a perfect vision in their head, and they just chip, hammer, and force away anything that doesn't fit that vision. But the gardener knows they can't force a flower to grow. All they can do is create the perfect conditions, good soil, the right amount of water and sun, and then step back and trust the plant to become what it's meant to be. And if you look at the real-world scoreboard, the story becomes crystal clear. On one side, you have the sculptors, WeWork, trying to force a culture and just crashing and burning to the tune of $47 billion. Or FTX, the ultimate story of control through lies. But on the other side, you've got the gardeners, Basecamp, quietly profitable for over 20 years by building calm, trusting teams. And then there's Patagonia. They built so much trust and purpose that they could literally give the entire company away to its mission of saving the planet. So, how do you use this in your own life? Well, next time you're negotiating at work, don't just ask for more pay, ask for more autonomy, more freedom in how you do your job. In your relationships, maybe stop trying to fix people and just give them the space to be who they are. And for yourself, try picking up a hobby with absolutely no goal, no metrics, no finish line. Just do it for the pure joy of it. It's about shifting your mindset from taking power to allowing things to happen. So as we finish up, I want to leave you with one single question that I think gets to the absolute core of everything we've talked about. Seriously, think about it. In your job, in your family, with your personal goals, where are you applying all that force, trying to chip reality into the perfect shape you have in your head? And where? Where could you step back, act like a gardener, create the right conditions, and just trust that something amazing will grow all on its own?